Oh, yeah, that's where we are. Jacob and Esau. Jacob is now returning back home. He hasn't seen his brother since he left. Oh, I don't know. It has to be, well, I know it said in the last passage, but I don't remember the length of time. But he worked 7 years for Rachel, 7 years for Leah, his two wives, and then a little bit longer. I think it's 20 years. I think it's 20, but I could be wrong. Somewhere in that ballpark. So he is now returning, and he had left secretly. His father-in-law Laban caught up with him, gave him a hard time. His wife Rachel had stolen the family idols from her father. That was well, it almost was a disaster. Turned out to be okay. And so we're going to continue. What's the note here? Oh, that's right. If you recall last time, the last verse that was in chapter 31 is actually in chapter 32 in the Hebrew text. So the difference between the Hebrew and English, where they do the chapter split, that's an interesting thing, I think. Not significant in any way, but just interesting. So let's jump into our passage this morning. Jacob also went on his way, and the angels of God met him. When Jacob saw them, he said, "This is the camp of God." So he named the place Mahanaim, two camps. Okay. I don't know why that would be the name for it. Mahanaim means two camps. This is the camp of God. This it means two camps. I don't. I'm gonna look that up. Yeah, yeah. Double camp. See there. That makes a little bit more sense in the sense of double instead of two. Like if a double portion of God's blessing is in that place, that makes more sense than two camps. I mean, here's a camp, double meaning more abundant. Okay. See, sometimes that's why you look them up because the English just doesn't always convey the meaning that well, I think the Hebrew intended in the first place. So, and remember, Jacob saw or had a dream when he was leaving his brother and heading out on this journey that he's been on, where he's gotten two wives, lots of kids, and now he's journeying back. Jacob sent messengers ahead of him to his brother Esau in the land of Seir, the kingdom of Eden. Hey, Miss Jellybeans, we're jumping into Genesis here. He instructed them, "This is what you are to say to my lord Esau. Your servant Jacob says, I have been staying with Laban and have remained there till now. I have cattle and donkeys, sheep and goats, male and female servants. Now I am sending this messenger to my lord that I may find favor in your eyes." When the messenger returned to Jacob, they said, "We went to your brother Esau, and now he is coming to meet you with 400 men with him." That doesn't sound good. In great fear and distress, Jacob divided the people who were with him into two groups, or camps, and the flocks and herds and camels as well. He thought if Esau comes and attacks one group, the group that is left may escape. Aha. Hey, awesome possum arts. Good morning. Glad to have you. We're in Genesis 32? Yes, 32. So we're just having Jacob sent messengers to his brother Esau as he's returning. Then Jacob prayed, "O God of my father Abraham, God of my father Isaac, Lord, you who said to me, go back to your country and your relatives, and I will make you prosper. Notice how he addresses God. This is pretty cool. God of my father Abraham, not my grandfather, my father. Um, and again, that's a way of attributing close relationship, um, not just genealogical relationship. Lord of my father Isaac. So this is the title of God, God of my father Abraham, Isaac, and soon will be included Jacob. You're the one that told me to do this. And so he's reminding God of his promises. Notice how many times in Scripture when someone prays, they remind God of his promises. Why is that an important thing? Is God forgotten his promises? No. It's declaring to God your proper understanding of who God is, his power, his promises, his provision, and it's him who is the one who's going to care for you. So it's a demonstration of faith, and it is a declaration of the hope that you have. So I am unworthy of all the kindness and faithfulness you have shown your servant. I had only my staff when I crossed the Jordan, but now I have become two camps. Save me, I pray, from the hand of my brother Esau, for I am afraid he will come and attack me, and also the mothers with their children. But you have said, I will surely make you prosper, and will make your descendants like the sands of the sea, which cannot be counted. Hey, ukulele worship, thanks for being here, friend. He spent the night there, and from what he had with him, he selected a gift for his brother 200 female goats and 20 male goats, 200 ewes and 20 rams, 30 female camels with their young, 40 cows and 10 bulls, and 20 female donkeys and 10 male donkeys. He put them in the care of his servant, each herd by itself, and said to his servants, go ahead of me and keep some space between the herds. He instructed the one in the lead, when my brother Esau meets you and asks, who do you belong to and where are you going, and who owns all these animals in front of you, then you are to say, they belong to your servant Jacob. They are gifts sent to my lord Esau, and he is coming behind us. He also instructed the second, the third, and all the others who followed the herds. You are to say the same thing to Esau when you meet him, and be sure to say, your servant Jacob is coming behind us. For he thought, I will pacify him with these gifts. I will send on ahead. Later, when I see him, perhaps he will receive me. So Jacob's gifts went on ahead of him, but he himself spent the night in the camp. So he splits his group up into two. So if they attack, only one might be destroyed. Now he sends gifts on ahead. And then he doesn't even send the gifts together. So he sends one gift, and then another gift, and then another gift. It's this going to be overwhelming. Oh, I got a gift from my brother. Great. Yeah. And I got another one. Oh, wow. And oh, wow. Another one. Yeah. Yeah. Translation. Please don't kill me. Please don't kill me. Yes. Exactly. Exactly. Yes. I'll pacify him with gifts rather than kill me. However, this could, from that perspective, backfire. If my brother has the ability to give me all these gifts and he has a lot more, if I kill him, I can take all of it. So that kind of approach could backfire, but he's trying to pacify his brother. So this is interesting, very interesting. But he does pray, and did we see an answer? No. We didn't see an answer from God, but he does have a prayer to God. Here is, well, one of my favorite passages in Scripture, and I'll say that often, so I should do that sometime. How many favorite passages in Scripture do I have as a poll? But anyway, we're here with wrestling with God, and wrestling is one of only a couple of sports mentioned in Scripture, and it's the first one. Just saying. That's all I'm saying. That night Jacob got up and took his two wives, his two female servants, and his 11 sons, and crossed the fjord of the Jabbok. After he sent them across the stream, he sent over all his possessions, so Jacob was left alone. and a man wrestled with him till daybreak. When the man saw that he could not overpower him, he touched his socket and Jacob's hip, so that his hip was wrenched as he wrestled with the man. Then the man said, "Let me go, for it is daybreak." And Jacob replied, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." The man asked him, "What is your name?" "Jacob," he answered. The man said, "Your name will no longer be Jacob, but Israel, because you have struggled with God and with humans and have overcome." Yeah, Israel means something along the lines of wrestles with God, who struggles with God. Jacob said, "Please tell me your name." But he replied, "Why do you ask my name?" Then he blessed him there. So Jacob called the place Peniel, saying, means face of God. It is because I saw God face to face, and yet my life was spared. The sun rose above him as he passed Peniel, and he was limping because of his hip. Therefore, to this day, the Israelites do not eat the tendon attached to the socket of the hip, because the socket of Jacob's hip was touched near the tendon. So, interesting little side note. Isn't that cool? They said this little. So to this day, we don't eat the tendon that's there, because that tendon was the one that Jacob had a problem with. And so in honor of him and him wrestling with God, we never eat that. Just throw that in here for, well, I would say no good reason, but for a good reason, obviously, but just a fascinating little thing. So, dun, 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 okay. I just want to go look, and I'm going to assume it's Adam here in verse 24, but let's just look. Yeah, I'm already the second time looking up a word today. Jacob was left alone, and he wrestled with a man. Oh, it's Ish. Ish. Is that Ish? Yeah, Ish. It's just a masculine man. Indescript. Nothing specific to look at there. Okay. Da, da, da. Okay. Yeah, nothing else there. Okay. Just checking. So, anyway, it is interesting here, the Peniel. And so, you know what? Let me see if I can do this quick. Peniel and Bethel. Jacob's journey. That would be good. Mm-hmm. Don't know if you can see this. Okay, here's Peniel. Peniel is east of the Jordan, and Bethel, if you can see Jericho, it's just above there. Okay, yeah, well, there we go. So, no, it's all the more it lets me zoom in. Okay, so Peniel is right about where the blue arrow is pointing up to the right, and Bethel is just to the left of the blue arrow there. So, I just wondered how close those two were together, because Bethel was the house of God where Jacob had the dream, and here he had wrestled with God. And I just wondered if those two were close together in any sense. So, but they are not. Alas, they are not. All right, so we'll keep on now. Jacob looked up, and there was Esau coming with his 400 men. So he divided the children among Leah, Rachel, and the two female servants. He put the female servants and their children in front, Leah and her children next, and Rachel and Joseph in the rear. He himself went on ahead and bowed down to the ground 7 times as he approached his brother. There's that biblical 7 showing up. Why? Demonstrating completeness and totalness or perfection, however it is need to be used in that setting. The totality of his bowing down to his brother. He does it 7 times. Might remind you of dipping 7 times in the Jordan later on event. But Esau ran to meet Jacob and embraced him. He threw his arms around his neck and kissed him, and they wept. Then Esau looked up and saw the women and children. Who are these with you? He asked. But Jacob answered, These are the children God has graciously given your servant. Then the female servants and their children approached and bowed down. Next, Leah and her children came and bowed down. Last of all came Joseph and Rachel, and they too bowed down. Esau asked, What's the meaning of all the flocks and herds I met? What's that about? They kept meeting these guys with herds way ahead of you. It's like a parade. To find favor in your eyes, my lord, he said. But Esau said, I already have plenty, my brother. Keep what you have for yourself. No, please, said Jacob. If I have found favor in your eyes, accept this gift from me. For to see your face is like seeing the face of God. Oh, he just wrestled with God and said that he saw God face to face. So this, now his brother might not know it, is a great compliment. It's a great compliment, I say. Now that you have received me favorably, please accept the presents that was brought to you, for God has been gracious to me, and I have all I need. And because Jacob insisted, Esau accepted it. Then Esau said, Let us be on our way. I'll accompany you. Look at this brotherly love expression here. Not vengeance, not hate, not holding on to a grudge, not bitterness. Hasn't seen his brother. What does he want? He wants his brother more than the things that his brother stole from him. But Jacob said to him, My Lord knows that the children are tender, and that I must care for the ewes and the cows that are nursing their young. If they are driven hard one day, all the animals will die. So let my Lord go ahead of my servant, while I move along slowly at the pace of the flocks and herds before me, and the pace of the children, until I come to my Lord in Seir. Esau said, Then let me leave some of my men with you. But why do that? Jacob asked. Just let me find favor in the eyes of my Lord. This seems a little bit like, I don't trust you. I'm not going on ahead with you and leaving everybody behind. Yeah, now you're saying, let me leave some men. I'm not so sure. He's still a little suspicious of his brother. This was maybe a ruse. I'm wondering. So that day Esau started on his way back to Seir. Jacob, however, went to Succoth, where he built a place for himself and made shelters for his livestock. That is why the place is called Succoth, okay, which means shelters. Makes sense? After Jacob came to Padam Aram, we've seen that one before. No, that is northwest Mesopotamia. Okay. He arrived safely at the city of Shechem in Canaan and camped within sight of the city. For 100 pieces of silver, he bought from the sons of Homer, the father of Shechem, the plot of ground where he pitched his tent. There he set up an altar and called it El Elohon Israel. Ooh, what's this one? El is God of Israel, or mighty is the God of Israel. Mighty is the God of Israel. That's a pretty good name for a place. Okay, we're going to get in some more of these stories that you go, why are they in the Bible? And it's somewhat to show the reality that this isn't a whitewashed story. It's not. It has all of the sin. It has all of the frailness that people are, and the fact that we can be serving God one moment and far away from him at another time. So now Dinah, the daughter of Leah, was born to Jacob, went out to visit the women of the land. When Shechem, son of Homer, the Hivite, the ruler of the area, saw her, he took her and raped her. His heart was drawn to Dinah, daughter of Jacob. He loved the young woman and spoke tenderly to her. And Shechem said to his father Homer, "Get me this girl as a wife." Okay, get me this girl as a wife. That's the same phrase, if you remember, that we read that Samson said of the Philistine woman to his parents, "Get me this woman for a wife. I find her attractive. Go get her." A little bit different circumstance, but that's what he does. When Jacob heard that his daughter Dinah had been defiled, his sons were in the field with his livestock, so he did nothing about it until they came home. Interesting, Jacob doesn't take action, he passively waits. Instead of dealing with the situation, he allows it to continue, or the report of it to not be settled. Then Shechem's father, Homer, went out to talk with Jacob. Meanwhile, Jacob's sons had come in from the fields. As soon as they heard what had happened, they were shocked and furious because Shechem had done an outrageous thing in Israel by sleeping with Jacob's daughter, a thing that should not be done. Or against, in or against Israel. But Homer said to them, "My son Shechem has his heart set on your daughter. Please give her to him as a wife. Intermarry with us, give us your daughters, and take our daughters for yourself. You can settle among us. The land is open to you. Live in it, trade in it, and acquire property in it." Move freely. Okay. Then Shechem said to Dinah's father and brothers, "Let me find favor in your eyes, and I will give you whatever you ask. Make the price for your bride and the gift I am to bring as great as you like, and I'll pay whatever you ask me. Only give me the young woman as a wife." Because their sister Dinah had been defiled, Jacob's sons replied deceitfully. Wonder where they learned that? Mom, dad, maybe? Grandma? Deceitfully as they spoke to Shechem and his father Hamor. They said to them, "We can't do such things. We can't give our sister to a man who is not circumcised. What would be this? That would be a disgrace to us." So, some truth there, some truth. "We will enter into an agreement with you on one condition only, that you become like us by circumcising all your males. Then we will give you our daughters and take your daughters for ourselves. We'll settle among you and become one people with you. But if you will not agree to be circumcised, we'll take our sister and go." Yeah, yep. When parents or children reveal their parents' character, yeah, isn't that fascinating? Fascinating how that happens. Their proposal seemed good to Hamor and his son Shechem. The young man, who was the most honored of all his father's family, lost no time in doing what they said, because he was delighted with Jacob's daughter. So Hamor and his son Shechem went to the gate of their city to speak to the men of their city. "These men are friendly toward us," they said. "Let them live in our land and trade in it. The land has plenty of room for them. We can marry their daughters and they can marry ours, but the men will agree to live with us as one people only on the condition that our males be circumcised as they themselves are. Won't their livestock, their property, and all their animals become ours? So let us agree to their terms, and they will settle among us." So here's a little greed as the thought here. Look at what they have for wealth. They're wealthy. If your daughters marry them, you're going to get some really good bride prices. You're going to get lots and lots of camels and donkeys and flocks and wealth and riches and all kinds of things by intermarrying with them. There's going to be this when they take your daughters, they're going to pay great bride prices, and when you get their sons, your daughters are going to be doing well. This is going to be great. Just do this little thing. Just do this little thing. Little greed, buying into the ruse here. All the men who went out of the city gate agreed with Hamor and his son Shechem, and every male in the city was circumcised. 3 days later, yeah, that's a little bit of Brer Rabbit and the Briar Patch. Yeah, that's a good thought there. Huh? Yeah. Don't do this one thing. Oh, that would be awful. Just don't throw me there. 3 days later, while all of them were still in pain, yes, while this might happen to young children, it is much more traumatizing on adults. 3 days later, while they were still in pain, two of Jacob's sons, Simeon and Levi, Dinah's brothers, took their sword and attacked the unsuspecting city, killing every male. Now, notice it's just two of them, and it says Dinah's brothers. So I didn't pay attention. I'd have to go back and look when it mentioned who their mother was, and so I'm guessing these are full brothers. That's why they're mentioned here. They put Hamor and his sons. Oh, sorry. My battery is on low. I need to plug in a second. So I didn't plug in because I'm not well, anyway. I'll just put this on the screen for a minute and I'll be right back. All right, sorry about that. Didn't know how long it would last, and apparently it's not really good. Not really good. So, okay. So we were on the 3 days, and two brothers now come with the sword and attack and kill every male. And I was pointing out it's just the two probably full brothers that took the action. Yeah, that's an interesting point there. Just some guy. Um, yeah, how big was the town? How many men were there, and how long would this have taken them to do? Certainly, some might have been able to defend themselves. They might have put able to put up a fight, but we also don't know. How did they do this? They do it secretly in the middle of the night. I'm not sure. We don't get a lot of those details. Just uh, the finger pointing, if you will. I don't mean that in a bad way, but just the here's who did it kind of a thing. Um, not how they did it. So good thoughts. Those are the kind of things I do, like to pause and ponder. It says they took their swords and attacked the unsuspecting city. I think that's the part they're trying to emphasize is it was unsuspecting. So they may have invited them in. Hey, it's the brothers. Yeah, I'm coming to check on you. We wanted to see how you guys were doing. We brought you something. Slit your wrist or, plunge a knife into your gut. I don't know how they killed them, but whatever. Um, so they could have even used the pretense of, we're coming to check out your daughters. We're already ready to get married. You did this the right way, but that's what happens. So they put Hamor and his son Shechem to the sword and took Dinah from Shechem's house and left. The sons of Jacob came upon the dead bodies and looted the city where their sister had been defiled, or because. They seized their flocks and herds and donkeys and everything else of theirs in the city and out in the field. They carried off all their wealth and all their women and children, taking as plunder everything in the houses. So, you wanted to intermarry? Well, it happened. It's going to happen. We carried off all the women and children. And then Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, you have brought trouble on me by making me obnoxious to the Canaanites and Perizzites, the people living in the land. We are few in number, and if they join forces against me and attack, I and my household will be destroyed. But they replied, should he have treated our sister like a prostitute? Like, Dad, you didn't do anything about this. We did. We took care of it. We were not going to let this stand. So, like I said, interesting, just little interjected story here, which we start getting little interjected stories about the 12 sons. We'll get one longer with Joseph. Joseph is actually the longest story in Genesis, interesting enough. You'd think Abraham, Isaac, Jacob would be the longest stories in Genesis. No, it's Joseph. Joseph is the longest story. But we get these little tidbits of what kind of brothers he has before we get to it. So, okay, Jacob returns to Bethel. And God said to Jacob, go up to Bethel and shelter there and build an altar there to God, who appeared to you when you were fleeing from your brother Esau. So Jacob said to his household and to all who were with him, get rid of the foreign gods you have with you and purify yourself and change your clothes. Then come, let us go up to Bethel, the house of God. Remember, that's what it means. Where I will build an altar to God, who answered me in the day of my distress and who has been with me wherever I have gone. So they gave Jacob all the foreign gods they had and the rings in their ears, and Jacob built them, buried them under the oak at Shechem. Then they set out, and the terror of God fell on the towns all around them, so that no one pursued them. So Jacob was worried that his sons had made them now a target. And what does he do? He purifies himself in the sense of it, because he was told to purify yourself and go build an altar. So he's going to purify himself by making sure no one in the household, the servants, well, his wife too, and no one has idols, gets rid of them. Notices, and the rings in their ears. Why would there be rings in their ears? Something in regards to them was dedicated to these foreign gods. So it could have been an image that was connected with, or the material it was made of was connected with, or some shape was a shape that symbolized that. Not sure exactly what, but something along those lines. So he gets rid of all of them, and now the fear of God falls on all the towns around them. Jacob and all the people with him came to Luz, that is Bethel, in the land of Canaan. There he built an altar, and he called the place El Bethel, God of Bethel, God of the house of God. That's a mouthful. Because it was there that God revealed himself to him when he was fleeing from his brother. Now, Deborah, Rebekah's nurse, died and was buried under the oak outside of Bethel. So it was named Alon Bakoth, Oak of Weeping. So yeah, mourn for her. After Jacob returned from Padan Aram, God appeared to him again and blessed him. God said to him, your name is Jacob, but you will no longer be called Jacob. Your name will be Israel. So he named him Israel. This is interesting. So, he wrestled with a man. We can speculate on that. I'm not going to get into that because it's all speculation. So he wrestles with a man. He declares that he saw God face to face, and he wrestled with God. And the man named him Israel, one who wrestled with God. And now God shows up and tells him his name will no longer be Jacob, which means he grasped the heel, or which is an idiom for deceiver. He's no longer to be called deceiver. He's going to be he who struggles with God. Yeah. the one who struggles with God. I like wrestled with God better than struggles with God. Struggles sounds, I don't know, it doesn't sound hopeful. Wrestling sounds like a fair fight at some level. Struggling, maybe not so much, but either way, same idea. And God said to him, I am God Almighty, El Shaddai. Be fruitful and increase in number. Well, he's already done that. A nation and a community of nations will come from you, and kings will be among your descendants. The land I gave to Abraham and Isaac, I also give to you, and I will give this land to your descendants after you. Then God went up from him at the place where he had talked with him. Jacob set up a stone pillar at that place where God had talked with him, and he poured out a drink offering on it, and he also poured oil on it. Jacob called the place where God had talked with him Bethel, means house of God. So he returns to Bethel, where he slept on a stone, had a dream about angels descending and ascending, going up to heaven and coming down. He said, this is the house of God. He marked the place with a stone. Now he's doing a stone pillar. Well, let me just look that up. 35:14. What's it say that is? Masaba. Oh, Mastaba. Okay. Mastaba. A monument, an altar. Okay. Interesting. It's the word that is a stump of a tree. Did not know that. That's interesting. Okay. So he comes back to Bethel, and God speaks to him there. I find that very fascinating. God tells him to leave the country that he'll go to. When he gets there, he tells him, all that you see here, all that I promised your fathers, will be yours. What did he do with Abram? Told him to leave his family and come to the land I'll show you, and everything you see here will be yours, and I'll be your God. So this is a um, reaffirming, that's the word I want to, reaffirming of the covenant that was already put up. And it's now a reaffirming with Jacob is the one. Ah, another interesting thought. It must have been very quiet and no ladies screaming. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. Again, that might lead to the thought of them doing this quietly or at night. Um, may have picked a certain time of day to do this. Yeah, very, wow. Good insights. Good insights. Those are some things I had not fully thought of. This is the fantastic thing of when you get people together, looking at scripture. We all come with a little bit something else, and when we do that, we find more in the story to wonder about and to think about. And yeah, I like doing that. So yeah, cut their throats. That's what kind of I've thought to keep them quiet, but I don't know. We don't know. It was the intent of it and the secretness of the deception that they came in. So yeah, exactly. Not the kind of thing I want to be involved with for sure. All right, moving on. Now we have the death of Rachel. So we had her servant has died and buried, and then the reaffirmation of the promise, and now in the covenant, and now we have another one. So they moved on from Bethel. While they were still some distance from Ephrath, Rachel began to give birth and had great difficulty. And as she was having great difficulty in childbirth, the midwife said to her, don't despair, for you have another son. As she breathed her last, for she was dying, she named her son Ben Oni, but her father named him Benjamin. Okay, so let's see what this is. Ben Oni means son of my trouble. What trouble? Well, her whole life of not being loved, her whole life of not having children, her whole life of the struggle that's there, or it could be the trouble in labor. Son of my trouble. Could it be any of those connotations? However, instead, Dad says, nah, not son of my trouble, son of my right hand. Why? Because he's going to love him just as much as he loves Joseph. That's why. So Rachel died and was buried on the way to Ephrath, that is Bethlehem. Oh, uh-huh, Bethlehem. Well, interesting. Um, Over her tomb, Jacob set up a pillar, and to this day, the pillar marks Rachel's tomb. I love how they do that. And to this day, it's kind of like, and they lived happily ever after in some regard. This fascinating little thing to say, and that's the, or even Walter Cronkite, and that's the way it is at the end of his sign off kind of thing. So that's the end of that story, and it's still there to this day. So you can go see it. That'd be cool. The problem is they're not a big sign saying it. It would just be the pillar. And how do you know which pillar means what? You have to know the people that set it up, and they have to tell you the story. I love that aspect. But anyway, it's still there. This confidence in what was done. Well, yeah, they might be scattered. They might actually still be piled up. I mean, there is a chance. We just wouldn't be able to identify and say that's exactly the one. Um, but yeah, in some ways, it was the declaration that it happened and it was true. That's somewhat, and it was there, and it's there till this day, and to this day, it's that declaration of the truth within it is, I think, part of what they're saying when they say that. But yeah, it's possible. The problem would be, how would we know it was the right one without somebody continuously through the generations saying, yes, those stones there. You'd have to have a tour guide always taking and telling or teaching everyone where it is. And when they go to Egypt for 400 years and come back, it's going to be kind of hard to know exactly, I would say. So Israel moved on again and pitched his tent beyond Migdal Eder. While Israel was living in that region, Reuben went in and slept with his father's concubine, Bilhah, and Israel heard of it. Jacob had 12 sons, the sons of Leah, Reuben, the firstborn of Jacob, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun. Okay, so here we have uh, Simeon and Levi. So that means Dinah, is it? Yeah, Dinah was brother or sister with all of these six. Oh, okay. Yeah, there it is down here. Okay. The sons of Rachel, Joseph and Benjamin. The sons of Rachel's servant, Bilhah, Dan and Naphtali. The sons of Leah's servant, Zilpah, Gad and Asher. And we had all the meaning of the names as we went through. These are the sons of Jacob, who were born to him in Padan Aram. Jacob came home to his father Isaac in Mamre near Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron, where Abraham and Isaac had stayed. Isaac lived 180 years, then he breathed his last and died and was gathered to his people, old and full of years, and his sons Jacob and Esau. So Esau and Jacob buried him. That's fascinating. I did not remember that Jake Isaac did not die until Jacob returned, and Jacob and Esau both buried him together. Oh, interesting. Didn't remember that at all. Wow, that's some good stuff. All right, so that's where we are in Genesis.